our buddies joining. We are currently preparing to live stream to YouTube, but let us know in the chat, what is your favorite dish or what is your favorite local restaurant where you are at? And we are live. Welcome, everyone. If this is your first Design Buddies event, welcome. I'm Grace, and we're excited to have Minjun on again for a wonderful topic on acing their app critique for your next product design interview. If y'all are new to Design Buddies, I'll share a couple of slides of what we are. And so I'm Grace. I founded Design Buddies full-time. I'm also a product designer. And I randomly made Design Buddies almost 2 years ago today. Our birthday is actually on April 10th. So this weekend, and we are a community that aims to connect and support designers, and we have a lot of resources to help y'all level up your design career. We've done a lot of events, design challenges, a lot of fun activities. We actually hosted, these numbers are not updated, but I've counted, we hosted over 100 events so far. Make sure to connect with us on any of our social media platforms. And for a quick house rules, events are recorded and they are also posted on our Discord server, so you can watch them anytime you want. Feel free to engage in the chat. Everyone's like super friendly and wholesome, and so if Minjun says something or someone else in the chat says something you resonate with, feel free to just like converse with each other as well. We also have a networking sheet where you can keep all your promotional links in. We also will be using Slido for Q&A because I know this is a very hot topic, so you might get a lot of questions. So make sure you have all your questions on Slido that we dropped soon, and submit all your questions and upvote each other's as well. And at the end, we also like to take some group selfies for Instagram stories, and y'all welcome to twin with us, get your own Design Buddy Zoom backgrounds. Also, if something vibes with you, feel free to share them on social media. We always reshare them on our Instagram stories, we tweet them on Twitter. Feel free to connect with each other and hop into Discord and just vibe with our fellow buddies. And with that, I'll hand it over to Minjun.
Let me share my screen first. So could everyone see my screen here?
Yeah, it looks perfect.
Okay, sounds good. So thanks everyone to joining these talks. And today's we are going to talk about this super hot topic from the product design job interview, which is about the app critique. So the first thing I want to say is like all opinion I will share throughout these presentations are my personal opinions, and they are not representative of any of my employer. So during my job hunting process, I have been doing like 10 to 12 app critique in total, and I successfully passed off the app critique session. So today I'm going to share my key takeaway and learning and some tips and tricks for how to prepare and run the app critique session for your next job product design job interview. And today we have a little bit full agenda for these topics. I'm going to share like who I am, what I'm currently working, and then I will get into the key part of our topic, which is the app critique. I will share out like what is the structure of app critique you can leverage, what is the common interview questions, and some common mistake I see a lot of people made, and the actual bonus point you can leverage into your app critique session to level it up. And then we might have like 10 minutes left. I can answer any question from the audience from the app critique. So let's talk a little bit about myself. When I was a little girl, I really love drawings, and I always dreaming about becoming an artist or designer in the future. However, my younger self didn't know about how I could reach this goal. So to accomplish this little goal dream, I ended up with studying for a long time. And I actually holding 3 different degrees in different schools at the end. So I studied education, literature at University of Pennsylvania. And then I went to University of Washington, Seattle to study human-computer interaction design, which is the UX and the product design. So finally, I graduated from the schools and I finally became a product designer. I'm lucky enough to work at these great companies such as like Wayfair, Amazon's, and right now I am a product designer working at Microsoft. And more specifically, I'm working on the multimedia search on the Microsoft Bing. And then outside my works, I'm really a cat person. I have a cat, his name is Kirby, and right now he's sleeping in my bedroom. And I'm truly passionate about food and coffee. Always love exploring the local restaurant and cuisine in this different city. Yeah, so this is my introductions. So let's jump into the most juicy part of our presentation today, which is the app critique. So as you might know, or you may not know about, like what is the app critique sessions. Usually the app critique will be running for 35 minutes to 45 minutes during your interview sessions. And during these app critique sessions, they trying to evaluate a couple of things, including the visual design skill, your interactions design skill, as well as the product thinking and the product sense. And beyond these skill sets, they are also looking for the collaboration and communication part as you for you as a product designer, because app critique is always a great way to figure out how do you receive the feedback from your colleagues and how do you react and hear and listening to other perspectives and work with others in a real job environment. And usually during the app critique sessions, the interviewer, they might choose the app for you based on what kind of app you have on your mobile. The other things, like most of the time, based on my own experience, they will ask you to select the app. So usually like they want ask you to select the app from these two categories, such as the finance app or any messaging app that's including your personal data and financial information. So from this point, you don't have to prepare any app like Robinhood, like Chase, that indicate your financial informations as you are preparing for your app critique. So here I'm going to just show some of the common app for app critique, and I used to use this app to prepare for my app critique session, which include like Spotify, Yelp, like Google Map, Airbnb, Instacart. And because I was working for Amazon, so I can critique Amazon app, but most of my friends, they also critique Amazon shopping app as well. So with this in mind, please do prepare for a few apps in advance. Usually I will say like 2 or 3 apps in advance before you jump into these sessions. So after we have an overview about like what is the app critique, I'm going to talk about the app critique structures with some example. So the first step I will say is when you are starting with, after you pick up the app with an interviewer, you will going to establishing the high level content, which means you will going to be walking through what is the high level context and overview of this app you are choosing from. So there's a couple different lanes you have to cover for this high level context. The first one is the problems. So what problem is it before this app was created or launched? How does this app trying to solve the problems? And how does this app or company make the money? And what are the success metrics they are care about? And what is the value proposition and the business strategy for this app? And the second lens you can looking at when you are going through the high level contact is the business part. So how does the company make the money? What is the success metric focusing on? Beyond these questions, you can also talk about what is the company missions and what is the entire ecosystem, the marketplace of the app, and what is the value proposition and the business strategy you're trying to you can figure it out through your research. The other side of the high-level content also includes the user. So who are the key user to use this app? And what are the different user segments? Because sometimes the app might be designing for different group of people. And what is the key player in the ecosystems? Remember that, so for example, like from the Yelp, DoorDash, Instacart, they are not just designing for the customer, they are also designing for this business owner. So if you are criticizing any type of marketplace app, trying to mention the other part of the user, which is the restaurant owner, business owner in this ecosystem will be a great point to talk about. And you can also mention like what is the different like use case for this app is designing for. So with this in mind, like we want to establishing a high level context before we jump into any specific screen or user flow. I will briefly talk about the Yelp as an example. So for the problems Yelp is trying to solve, I will say before Yelp was created, people would rely on the physical map, or they will search online or hear from their friends and family to get recommendations and explore restaurant and other local business. So for this local business, they have to promote their business through these print materials, printed ad, such as magazine or newspaper, or they have to promote their business through word of mouth. So the problem Yelp is trying to solve was that they want to build a centralized digital platform and ecosystem to make it super easy for people to discover and search for this nearby restaurant and local business and surveys. As well as on the other hand, they want to help this local business grow their revenues and customer base in an easier way. And then so after I talk about the problem, I will talk about the business. So as I mentioned earlier, Yelp is trying to build this kind of ecosystem for discover everything from your local business. So I'm thinking that Yelp, they can make money in couple ways, such as they can make money through the partnership with the local business and restaurant. And they will help the local business to promote their business by posting the app to the target user on the Yelp's app so they can generate the revenue. And secondly, they might generate the revenue when the user making some transaction through the Yelp platform. And to talk about the users, I think Yelp is designing for a majority of people who are looking for like finding and exploring the local restaurant and local business. And also for these people who need some help from the local service, such as I'm going to move, I'm looking for the movers, hair cutting, home remodeling, this kind of different service from your local business. And Yelp is also really helpful for the travelers who are eager to experience the local cuisine, local authentic, local restaurant, and shop at local business. So after I have a high level overview about like what is the problem Yelp is trying to solve, who is the user, and what kind of business and success metric they're trying to focusing on, I will be going through criticizing the home screen. So the second step for the app critique structure is always start with the homepage based on my own experience. So if you are opening up the homepage, you can try to criticizing it through these three different perspectives. The first one is the visual design, which includes the typography, like colors, shape, image, icon, like padding, spacing, and much more. And from the interaction design perspective, you can think about like the information architecture, information hierarchy, navigations, design patterns, and any like micro flows, motion animation. They're trying to help it easier for the user to discover specific things or feature. the other sides of the other side you can consider is criticizing it through the product thinking lens. So for example, how does this app trying to communicate its value propositions and make it different from other platforms through the design, and how does this app trying to making the money when you looking at the home screen, and if you can go beyond the visual design and the interaction design, trying to think about what kind of the trade-off this designer they are making on this specific part of feature because of some sort of business and technical constraints. So let me just quickly walk through an example of the Yelp again. So this is the home screen of the Yelp when you opening up the app. And on this Yelp like home screen design, my first impression is that they are largely leveraging the red color, which is their brand color, to highlight the brand awareness, as well as they trying to communicate this kind of like positive vibe and enthusiasm for promoting the local business like foods, and also communicate some sort of happiness, this kind of positive moment. And then on the top sections, you can scrolling left and right to on this large banner on the top. You can, because right now I using a static image, I don't really like connect with my phone. But usually like if I'm walking through this session, I will really just swiping left and right and communicate it with the interviewer. So here I will say like, here I notify there's a red buttons above the large banners. I think this red button is trying to prompt user to take some specific action, such as search for the branch. However, because we already see there's a larger search box underneath, I think this approach might cause some confusion to the user. Remember that when you do this kind of app critique session, not only you are talking about something good for this design, but also you can also mentioning anything that doesn't work really well. And I will say this red button with the search icon and the branch tags, they might not visible enough as well. And there's some accessibility concern because this red button is there with the larger image. So depending on the image quality or different type of image, this kind of red button might not be seen by the user when they are browsing the information on the homepage. So after I criticizing this part, I will go into the button. So usually I will say, because most likely the app have the search bar, I will say, okay, here's the search bar, and there's some text on the search bar to indicate some specific action to build more affordancy for the user. And also below the search bar, you can see a couple of different icons, which is the shortcuts to search for like restaurant, reservation, takeout, auto replace, mover. So I think it will be worth for us here to also indicate from this design, we can also understand that Yelp is trying to transitioning from just a local food discovery platform to a centralized discovery platform that help people find anything, like any type of the local business and service beyond just research, beyond just restaurant. So you can see from the business part, they're trying to taking the actions when they are indicate different category of from the shortcuts here. So not just the visual and interaction design, but also you can incorporate your product thinking here. And then when you're scrolling down, you can see also like depending on the conversation you have the interviewer, sometimes the interviewer, they might ask you some specific question when we are thinking aloud and critiquing the homepage. And then going down, like you can see like going on near you, these kind of sessions. And it is obviously the upsell part, which is the promoted app. So I like the approach here where Yelp, they're using the content to indicate this is the promotion from the local business they are partnering with, which can help user more understanding about why we show this kind of session here. And obviously, Yelp also leveraging some common design pattern similar to the Instagram story, which they are using this kind of circle and the restaurant name or local business name underneath to give the user the capability to click through and help the user get a quick glance of what is happening from this local business. And actually just everything on this part you can critique through, not just what I'm saying here. You can also talk about these 3 dots on the right side, which is the overflow menu. And also you can talk about what is the navigation here from the homepage. And the other example from the homepage I will be talking about is personalizations, because I like the way where they, based on my current data, current location data, they show some nearby restaurant and coffee place based on my personal data. It provides the user like more customized information for what they need and their interests. And here you can also mentioning about the information architecture, the information hierarchy, because like how they are prioritizing information the customer they are looking for. For example, like I can see in the new bar in the Yaletown, which is the key information, the restaurant name, and then user they are more care about like the reviews and dollars, and also like what type of cuisine for this restaurant is providing. Like here, like I think it might be worse for you. Maybe sometimes you can facilitate the conversation about like it is worth for us to adding another data such as like times or the locations, like maybe like 1 mile or 2 mile into this design. So trying to like talk about you design your assumption here with some sort of rationale. And you can also mention about like why they are not adding the mile, the location, the specific like distance or the time this business is opening here. You can try to communicate your assumptions and rationale into when you're critiquing this part as well. And the other thing I might be also mentioning is this kind of little like dogs, 3 dogs icon here. So as a first-time user, I feel a little bit confused about what this like action is. So I open it, I see a button sheet opening up, so this button sheet is helping the user to hide the contents. I think this is a great approach to give the user more controls on what kind of like content they want on the homepage. And the other side, it can also help the Yelp to refine their algorithm better to help them provide more personalized information for their customer, for their user. So you can think about like why they give the control to hide the content here from both like from both user perspective and business perspective. And you can also criticizing the design here, like it is like good for us to just putting a text like grab a coffee here. Is there any other better approach, like better design for the user to hide the content action here other than using this kind of overflow menus button here? So this is the second step, as I mentioned, how we can talk about the homepage. And also depending on the conversation with the interviewer, sometimes when I going through the homepage, the interviewer, they might guide through the conversation a little bit about like what if we click on specific part? They might ask you these kind of actions. They might send you some requests for you to complete. And sometimes, most of the times, you have a full control of your app creative. So the third step, usually for me, was to picking up a specific user flow or work through a specific user flow. So usually in the context of the Yelp, I will be like searching for a specific cuisine, like or specific restaurant. And the same approach as we did for criticizing the homepage, we can try to criticizing from all these 4 different perspectives, which include like visual design, intention design, like product thinking, and collaboration part. That would be a bonus point if you can mention like, what if you were a designer for this app, for this product, what you will be changing. Like if you dislike this design, what would you do differently if you were a designer at this product? So let me give you a quick example about like searching for a specific cuisine. So I'm trying to search the fried chicken wing here. So I'm typing the fry. And here, because this is a static image, here usually I will also talk about the motion, the animation for them to, because I type the fries on the search bar and how this kind of micro interaction help user transitioning into this full page search experience. So I will say like after I type the fries, they have some auto suggest text and the restaurant here, which can make it super easier for user to find what they want without like typing too many texts. And I guess like fried chicken, fried oyster, they are how they prioritize this information might be largely based on the existing data Yelp they have, because most of people they might already searching for the fried chicken, so they show this auto suggest like fried chickens on the top. So you can think about like why they show like fried chicken above other and talk about your rationale here. And then so after I search, so I type the fry and I see the fried chicken. So I just click the fried chicken on the auto suggest here. And then it will guide me to the next page, which is the search result. So here I might talk about some of the change and the text change on the search box, because as you can see here, I can see some text style change after I type the fried chicken and the search result. On the search result part, the text on the search bar, it looks slightly different than what I'm searching the text when I was searching. So you can talk about like, if you don't like this approach, you can talk about the rationale and how you input. And if you like it, you can say like, I like the approach where they are using the boldest text to highlight the fried chicken, which is the key search keyword I was typing. And below, there's a map view along with the list view, which give the user the capability to switch between different view. And for the app map design, because right now I'm choosing the list design, sometimes you can click on the map here and they will be zooming out into the full page of the map view. And there's a couple car, the car underneath to allow the user to swiping left and right. So you can also criticize one through the map view as well. So right now I'm using the list view as an example. So as you can see here, there's a couple filters on the top. Here I'm not so you can see a lot of top like popular filter such as open house, price, reservations, which make it super easier for user to just filter out the right restaurant they are looking for. But I'm not sure about there's a little like icon behind the thought filter. So here I might be really just click through it and talk about what is inside and why. it might not make sense and how I improve this part. So underneath, I see a large sponsor results. So I know about Yelp is trying to using the content to indicate this is the promotion, that this is the promotions. And they also using this kind of info icon behind the sponsor result. So you can actually click on the info item to see what the context look like. So you can say something like, through this approach, they just reinforce the user that this is the promotion content from the Yelp. And actually here, I also want to question you about this approach, because as you can see here, the Hi-Fi Chicken, they don't have a higher review and they only have 3-star. However, because this is a sponsor results, so it's showing up on the top, but this might not be something the user they are really looking for, because I'm the foodist, I always looking for like 4 or 5-star restaurant. So how do you balance the business need and the user needs? You can talk more about here if you have any thoughts. And then, so underneath, I will be talking about the switching between the map view and this view, some motion design here from the Yelp. And here's an interesting thing I want to call out here, like call to order actions. So I'm thinking that the reason for the Yelp to adding this large CTA button call to action is that Yelp trying to help the trying to help the restaurant directly directly get the user base, directly grows their user base through their platform. Because if I call to the user, if I call to the restaurant, the restaurant, they can directly place the order for you without going to another platform like Uber Eats or DoorDash. Because as a restaurant owner, if the user, they place the order from the Uber Eats or DoorDash on Yelp, the restaurant, they might be double charged for to transition here. So I think this approach from the restaurant perspective is really helpful for the restaurant to get the direct contact from their customer. However, from the user perspective, maybe some of the user, they want to make the order online without really going to the restaurant. So the user, they might switch to another platform like the Uber Eats or DoorDash. So you can just making some interesting point here when you see this kind of call to order CTA button, because when you really click on this CTA, you will prompt user to call to the restaurant. And here again, you can also talk about some information hierarchy, information architecture, and some user generate content here, because some of the image they are showing here is taken by the photo is taken by the user, while some of the image they are showing here provided by the restaurant owner. So you can talk more about this approach as well. So, so this is my brief example of the Yelp. Usually, like when I going through the app quality sessions, I will dig more into like this kind of small little detail, like why they're using this gray tag to indicate like chicken shop, Korean, like burger, these kind of different like cuisine and the restaurant type. And also depending on how the conversation goes with interviewer, sometimes they might pick out a specific part and ask for your opinions. So let's jump into some common interview questions you might have from the interviewer when you are criticizing the app. So there's from the interaction and the visual design perspective, whenever you are talking through this part, they might ask you some question about how do you think about the typography, shape, button, color, filter, or search bar, or anything on the design side, and how does this feature design works well compared with their competitor, and what do you like or dislike specific part, and what would you do differently if you are a designer for this app. And also you might have some question about if you not sure about this approach or you dislike the specific design, they might ask you a question about how would you like to improve the design if you were a designer for this app. And the other signals, if you hear from the interviewer asking you some interaction design or visual design question, sometimes they might guide you to focusing on the visual design or the interaction design. If you only talk about the visual design while not talking anything about the interaction design, so like they might ask you some question to guide you to criticizing the app from different perspective. And the other question, I think personal thinking is way more harder to answer, is the product thinking question, such as like, if you don't mentioning about what problem they are trying to solve, the interviewer we might ask the similar question, like what is the problem this app is trying to solve, and how does this app generate the revenue or making the money, and what is the success metric they are focusing on. And the other one of the hard question I had before is, if you were the CEO of this company, how do you prioritize the business goal, or how do you prioritize the roadmap? So this might be the questions from the product thinking perspective they might ask you during the app critique. And then after going through these kind of structures, I want to share some common mistakes I have ever seen from other candidates. So the first one is they don't talk anything about the content. They don't give the overview. So they jump into the homepage design, or they jump into criticizing any design from the customer journey directly. So make sure that you give the interviewer the overview about what is this app is designing for before you start criticizing anything. The second part is sometimes the candidate, they might only talk about the UI, the color or the shape and or image. They are not talking anything about the interaction and business thinking part. So in this situation, some of the interviewer, they might ask you some following up questions beyond the UI. And the other thing is like, because I think app critique is still a conversations you will have with the interviewer. So trying to just communicate and interact with the interviewer. Sometimes it's also when I'm talking through the app, sometimes it's good for us to just pause a little and ask their questions or ask their like, do you have any question here? Can I moving forward with this part? So trying to just using some small cue to help them like jump into the conversation a little bit, so you can facilitate your app critique with the interviewer during the real product design interview. The other mistake I have ever seen a lot is about like, sometimes the candidate only talk about what works well in this design, and they don't talk about anything that it doesn't work well. Because I think the criticism is always think about the pros and the cons for the design we are looking at. It's not just about anything good. We also need to think about, is there anything that may not work well, and is there any trade-off behind the scenes, and how we can improve the design, and what is the recommendation we might have for this specific design. So this is the common mistake. And the bonus point sessions I have is there's a couple bonus points. It would be great for you to maybe include 2 or 3 bonus points into your app critique session to level it up. The first one is actually the must-have, I think. So trying to set up your device really well during your app critique session, which means you can find the resource online to set up how to set up the mirror, like mirroring your iPhone screen or any like phone screen to your laptop. So I can just quickly talk about the example of the iPhone. So usually, like if you have an iPhone, you just need to use the cable to connect your iPhone to your desktop, and then you can open up the QuickTime on your MacBook and select the iPhone from the menu, and then your MacBook screen will be turning into your iPhone screen. Because in this way, it's really easy for you to talk about like any design or motions of the app when you are walking through the creatives with the interviewer. And the second bonus point I have here is trying to think about and explore the difference between the new user, regular user, and the power user for this app design. So usually for the new user, you can think about like, what is the onboarding process look like? Is there any guidance or any barriers or frictions this new user, they might encounter when they are first opening up this app? And for the regular user, you can think about like, how do I grow from a new user to a repeat user to a regular user for this to this platform? And for the power user, you can think about, is there any specific feature or design that support their advanced needs? And the third bonus point I'm trying to mention here is, as an app creative, we need to understand the design foundation, which is the material design, which is the Google material design guideline and Apple like human interface guideline. You can find their resource online by searching the name here. So trying to, when you talk about the UI or interaction design, trying to connect it into the existing design pattern, maybe like from the material design or from the human interface guideline. And the other bonus point I want to say here is trying to understand and keep some most important success metric in mind. So for instance, there's a couple common user, the success metric, like the retention, user growth, time user spend, or supplies growth. So you can search this kind of common success metric through this kind of product management interview. It will also helpful for you to if you entering the app creative session, because they also need to evaluate your product thinking and product sense when you are talking through the success metric here. The other things you can think about, especially most of the app we are trying to critique right now, like Google Map, Spotify, they are designing for the global user with different language and culture background. So trying to think about how they explore and react on the international globalization and the localization. I have a typo here. It's actually the globalization and the localization here for their specific design. And the other thing is, the other hot topic right now company they are looking for is accessibility, like screen reader or any inclusive design approach you can see when you are walking through the app creative session. And the last bonus point you can make here is sometimes you can go beyond the app, trying to maybe talk about the entire user journey. Like, is there any like email notification or app store, this kind of design they might have beyond the app they are designing for to guide the user through the entire customer journey. So you can also mention about the email or notification at some point. So to recap this topic, the first thing I will say is the app creative is also about the practice. And the better way for you to practice the app creative is through the comparisons. Because if you are preparing for the Yelp, you can prepare the Google Map together. And also sometimes it's worth for you to mention about, like, is there anything Yelp did that Google Maps didn't do well? So you can mention some sort of comparison when you are doing the app creative as well. And the other thing I will say here is, for the app creative, all this knowledge or skill is built upon in your daily study and daily works. It's not just the interview sessions. It's all about like how you can accumulate the knowledge and the skill set in your daily work, so that you can translate this knowledge into the app creative sessions. The other thing is trying to leveraging your strengths and domain expertise into your app creative session here. So because I was working on the two-sided marketplace and I was designing for this kind of more likely in the business owner. So in this situation, I can talk more about how the design can help the business owner as well from their customer app. So trying to think about what kind of domain you are you are currently working and what kind of domain knowledge and expertise you can bring into your app creative sessions. And then the last couple thing is always trying to keep in mind is about the conversation. You have to facilitate this kind of two-way conversation with your interviewer. And after you done all this kind of preparation and build your knowledge, you should be confident in this app critique. It's not as hard as you were thinking about. And thank you so much for listening. And it's the time for us to the Q&A sessions.
Awesome. That was amazing. Like
15-minute talk.
Yeah, let's do Q&A. After Q&A, we're gonna do a quick group photo, but I would have loved this session as I was doing my first app critique. And kind of adding on your bonus points, I actually got asked about how would you redesign Venmo's logo. So for an product design internship. Yeah. My answer was really bad. More later. It's like, yeah, anyway, let's hop into questions. We have a lot of really great questions. I'll just kind of take them based on order popularity and what makes sense. And so for the first one is, do they inform you beforehand that you will be doing an app critique in the interview process? And kind of just going beyond that, are the app critique interviews usually for like entry-level designers or like senior level designers or all levels of designers?
I'm not sure it will be from all level, but at least from my experience, I see a lot of like app critique from my own interview. And usually like in the beginning, like the first like phone screening session you have with the recruiter, they will say, okay, so here's a couple like interview session you might going to expect during this entire process, which include like portfolio presentation, whiteboard, app critique, blah, blah. And usually like the app critique is happening during the on-site interview. Yeah. It's also depending on the company requirement or the team requirement, because different company have different team have different requirement. Yeah. So always double check with the recruiter.
Yeah, recruiter wants you to win. So you can ask the recruiter, what's the best way to prepare? What are the interview questions? The worst thing you can say is no. So ask the recruiter, because sometimes they get paid more. They get commission if you get hired. So they're incentivized. So ask your recruiter. Recruiter is friend, buddies. Yeah. And the next question is, do you have any time to prepare your thoughts once an app is chosen, or do you have to analyze all this on the spot? I guess this kind of goes into, would you recommend like coming prepared with like list of notes of all the popular apps or not when preparing for these?
So like, you mean, could you clarify the question here is like, should I prepare the notes or should I work through the app on my own? Yeah, before the interview session?
Yeah, I'm assuming it's working on the app, like doing some prep work, coming with notes and stuff, or is that typically looked down upon?
I usually will prepare the app like Spotify, Instacart, like Google Map, Yelp, and maybe DoorDash. Like, because if you prepare the DoorDash, even you don't prepare the Uber Eats, you can leverage the same kind of format into the Uber Eats, because they are pretty much the similar like platform. And the other thing is like, usually like right now, because you are going to mirroring your screens on your laptop, so the interviewer, they can see the screen. Usually like right now they will ask you preference, like which app you want to pick up, or they might select 2 or 3, like they might looking at your screen and talk about maybe Google Map or Spotify. They might say Google Map or Spotify, like which one do you want to critique? The other thing you can think about, usually the interviewer, they will also pick out the popular app, because if this is not a very common app or they haven't used this app, it's unlikely for them to select this app for you as well. So this is based on my own experience. So definitely prepare at least like one app from the same category before you go into the interview. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of great questions. Please submit them on Slido. That's how we can keep track of all of them. A lot of great questions on Zoom, but try to get to as many as we can. The next question is, what if the interviewer disagrees with what you say when you critique something like the search bar on a homepage or Yelp? Do you argue over it or for how long?
That's a great question. Let me think about. I think usually if they are not, if they disagree, they won't have a very strong opinion about like disagreeing what I'm saying. Maybe they will say, okay, yeah, I have a different thinking, blah blah, or they might just rationalize their thinking with me, and I think this is a good time for you to show your self-awareness as well, because maybe sometimes the interviewer, they might say something really just worth for you to think about the rationale behind the scenes. At this point, you can say, yeah, I like this is a great perspective. This is a very helpful approach I haven't think about yet. And sometimes you can also mention about something about if I were the designer on the team, I might working with the data scientist or the research to validate my assumption. So just trying to just show you appreciate people feedbacks, and also is there anything you can do if you were a designer on the team, rather than just arguing your design rationale with the interviewer, because it will be a red flag maybe at the end. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I always love to ask like why people think certain ways, and often sometimes uncover something that I missed, which shows self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And next question is, any resources to better understand business and technical constraints?
Yeah, this is one of the advice I got from other designer is sometimes when you practicing the app creativity, you don't have to just practicing it with your designer friend. You can also criticizing it from the PM, your PM friend or engineering friend, because I know about like PM also have the app creativity, like similar app creativity session for their job interview. So maybe in this situation, it's better for you to talk through how you understand talk through the app creativity, practice the app creativity with any of your engineer or PM friends. So they might bring you the different perspective from technical and business part. Yeah.
Awesome.
And the other thing is like, if you are working in like some very similar product or similar domain, you might know about this part. They might have some technical constraint. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make a lot of engineering product friends, buddies. Yeah, you work a lot with them on the job too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, next question is, do you mention user research at all? If like what I would do to improve design is asked, do I go deep into user research and what I'll do to find improvements?
Could you explain these questions?
Oh yeah, it's like I guess you mentioned like metrics at the kind of during your presentation, but I was just wondering if you would have to mention like how would you test something out or research more on like an app idea.
I think this will be the questions the interviewer they might ask you, especially if you say like I assume this is because of blah blah reason. At this moment, some of the interviewer they might ask you a question like, how, if you were the designer on the team, how did you run the research to validate your assumption? So in this moment you can talk about it, but if not, that no one asks you about it, you don't have to dive deep into how you are going to run in the research. Yeah, because we are the designer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point. Like, don't ask and you will not. Well, don't mention you might not get asked. Yeah. All right. There's a lot of great questions. I know we're almost at time, and I'm trying to like read through to see if we can go over. Do you have a hard stop, by the way? Just want to make sure we're good on time.
I don't.
Oh, okay, cool. Are you okay with going a tiny bit over time with to finish up as many questions as we can?
Yeah. Sounds
Okay.
good. Work for me.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of questions, so I am just trying to think out loud and read at the same time. Um, there's another question I saw in Zoom. Is like, how would you best prepare? I know you said practice with friends and then making like a doc of like what you think of the app. But is there any other way that you want to highlight?
Mm, I think it's not just about like practicing like how I prepare for the app critique. It's about like if I so because I was really interested in two-sided marketplace, which is the product you can see like Uber Eats, Airbnb, this kind of platform. So I might intentionally searching for an article or any blog post that is about the two-sided marketplace. And usually this blog or post is coming from the product manager side. So if you find anything really interesting, you maybe the accessibility, you can looking at the accessibility related like article or materials rather than just looking at the app critique, the app itself. And then after you build some sort of accessibility knowledge or two-sided marketplace knowledge, how can you bring this knowledge into the app critique? So this is something you can do on your free time, like beyond preparing for an interview. So trying to figure out like which part or which is something you really want to dig into, doing the research online. So that in this part, you can build up your domain knowledge, which is a really great point you can bring into the app critique beyond this kind of visual or interaction design critiques. Yeah.
Yeah, so bring your own unique experience to them a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Another question is, how much criticism versus praise should you mention for the apps? Since most of them are pretty well known, not sure how much criticism to give.
Criticism. That's a great question. Let me think about my own experience. So I think based on my own experience, usually maybe like 60 to 70% I'm say something good, while like 20 to 30% I say something that didn't work well. So I think that is another reason trying to prepare the app in advance. Maybe like you are a big fans of blah blah app and you can't find anything that didn't work really well. So try not to choose that app for your app critique session because you have to say something that didn't work well. But most of the app, if you're really looking at like different page, different like flows, you can see a lot of inconsistency across the entire platform. So definitely, yeah, maybe 20 to 30% that didn't work well. Yeah.
Yeah, always want to balance it, but not sound like too much of a hater, I guess. Yeah, there's some great questions. I guess another one that was upvoted is, can you give examples of providing high-level context in your critique? So I'm assuming this was like industry domain. And who the users.
What do you mean by the example I can share here?
Yeah, I guess like I think you kind of went over it, so maybe we can skip this really quick because I know we're at time, and I'm just trying to go through.
So I can just add a little bit, like if you want to prepare for a high level context, like this part, like where's the success metric, what is the business goal, business company missions. I think the great way for you to figure out, there are two. One is looking at the Apple Store, the app marketing banner or the materials. They will indicate very clearly about what is the goal, the user goal or business goal they want to reach from in their Apple Store description. So looking at this one first, and you can do the reverse engineering to figure out like what is the problem they're trying to solve. The second way is looking at the company. Some company, they have some blog and trying to looking at because if they launch something, usually they will have a blog post about like blah blah is launched blah blah, and looking at this kind of company materials, you can also understanding about what is their like goal, what is their like missions or any success metric they are focusing on. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. And also, like John said in the chat, what helped me is I Googled things like, how does Uber make money? Yeah, those are
Google
great.
it. Yeah. So that is the reason you have to prepare it if you didn't know how Uber makes money.
Yeah, I love the App Store. I never thought of that. That's a great way to get an overview context. Awesome. I'm gonna choose like a couple of more questions. Yeah, I'm trying to think which one, I guess. Oh, one question is, how do you suggest we divide up the time amongst the different steps of the app critique process? I guess it's mainly like driven by the interviewer, but in case like you didn't get asked any interaction design questions yet, like I know and they're probably looking for it. How would you like kind of go about that?
Like how much time I need to spend on each part?
Yeah, like the homepage.
Yeah, I think like for the first part, it won't take really long, the high level overview. It might just 3 to 5 minutes. And then like for the homepage, I think it might be like 10 or less than 10 minutes, depending on the conversation. So I feel like most of the interviewer, they definitely will ask you a question during the critique. And the rest of the part, I think I maybe 10 to 15 minutes or even 20 minutes, you will be criticizing a specific like customer, like user journey, a specific action you want to take.
Awesome. I think that wraps up our questions. A lot of the questions I got asked, they're probably answered later on the presentation. And so it's all recorded on our YouTube channel. So we're gonna do a group photo now. So feel free to turn on your camera. We do this event tradition at Design Buddies. I hope we're not all like Zoom burnt out, like I might be but yeah, feel free to turn on your camera if you want to be in a group photo. And if you don't wish to be in a group photo, feel free to react. And we will get your favorite emoji on as well. So yeah, there was a great talk. Like I would have loved this when I was doing my first app critique. I only did one in my life, and I got asked about the logo question, about how would you redesign the logo of Venmo, and I said something that made the interviewer's face become really sus. I was like, oh, why not like two people like shaking hands or something? Like I was a noob back then, and so I got rejected. But because like I was like thrown off by that question, and this is like my first ever interview at like Fame company, and so yeah. So that's my memory.
I think if ever you have this kind of very hard question, always just ask them more context or more information before you give them any answer. Yeah,
I'll be like, what's wrong with the logo now? Like, what are you trying to achieve with that? Things like that. So you can like ask if like interviewer asks a question, you get confused, you can ask them for more context. And yes, in the chat, yes, it's recorded on YouTube channel. You can search Design Buddies or like join our Discord, and it'll be there as well. So yeah, I can like quickly drop the links and then we'll do a group photo. All right, we're gonna do a static one first and then a wave for our Instagram story. And feel free to bring any objects you want. I have Fluffle here with me. We'll say hi. Yeah, I had maybe too much coffee today, as usual. All right. 5. Oh, feel free to react as well. If you want to be in our photo, react to a favorite emoji and you'll show up. And all right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Say app critique or app. And then we're gonna do our wave for our Instagram story. It's kind of what we do for all of our events. Here, and pull it up. All right. Ready, set, wave. Hello, buddies. Thank y'all for coming to Acing the App Critique for your next product design interview with Minjun. Make sure to watch your record on our YouTube channel, and good luck on all y'all's interviews. Awesome. Let me save that really quick. Awesome. That wraps up our event. Thank you all for coming. And if you have more questions about app critiques, we also have Ask Mentors and Career Questions channel on our Discord server where you can ask